When did you first grow curious about the paranormal? Dare you dig deeper? You are listening to House of Asher.
And hello everybody from Stevie and Nisi here at House of Asher. It's been a hot minute, but we're back with some weird and wonky and strange and some new stuff to me that I've not really heard much about. I guess before we get into that, we should say thank you guys for sticking around. Like I said, we've had a whole lot of different change-ups and things like that, so it's been kind of a deal where we have been really kind of bouncing back and forth between new work and moving and all that stuff and all that fun holdups that can happen when you're getting into a new location with a new studio and whatnot. But I should probably introduce my beautiful, beautiful co-host, Miss Nisi.
Hello, everyone. This is Nisi, and before we get too far into it, happy Thanksgiving, because that's coming up next week.
And silence. I thought you had more to say. I'll just shut up and just let you roll with it.
No, I just wanted to put that out there before we get started.
Well, I will say that I had a decent Halloween. It was the first time that we were able to kind of get out and do stuff because we work in a lot. Well, our side thing is sort of medical, in the medical related field, and so we're always working. Almost always working on holidays, and this new venture we're doing has been able to facilitate us to actually, what word am I looking for? Live? Is that
more freedom?
Have a life? Is that what it would be called?
Yes, a life with a third person,
and a life with a lot less COVID interaction.
Oh yeah.
I won't get into it too much, but we're doing much better now. We actually caught COVID at our last place we was working, and that was sort of the death knell for that job. I mean, don't get me wrong, it had a lot of perks. They didn't pay you enough, and the hours are long. So, I mean, who don't want that? But we're blessed to be in a situation now, and we have a lot more freedom, so that's great. And that's why we're doing shows again, and here we are. I do want to say, as of Halloween and stuff, it was really killer. We got to go more or less be part of a haunted hayride. For you guys that are out there listening to us, it may be YouTube, it may be Spotify, it might be Paranormal UK Radio, which I got to always say thank you to those guys for putting up with us and dealing with our kind of wonky hit and miss schedule with these shows. Thank you again. It may be on iHeart, it might be on just tons of stuff, tons of different places. We're very blessed to have these folks behind us. Haunted Hayride, which would be more or less, I guess, like what's the other name for what's another name for Halloween? It's another the Samhain and stuff like that. What was the in Spanish? What's the thing called?
Dia de la Muerte.
Right, Eric Estrada.
Day of the Dead.
I can't ever say it right. Dino De Laurentiis. What did you say?
Day of the Dead is Dia de los Muertos.
Dio de los Muertos. I screwed that up. If you've never heard of a band called Mortis, check them out. They're a pretty good metal band. But we got to do Haunted Hayride, and because with COVID and stuff, it's a little bit less contact. So you'll have people coming down, riding on their little whatever it is, back of like a hay wagon or whatever it is, and then so we would be all lined up down this road. We got put on the road, and they put us on the wrong road. So we were down there for like 20 minutes, and it's cold, and we're in very kind of flimsy costumes, and it was cold. It's cold this time of year around Halloween in Western Kentucky, and we waited, and we'd hear people, yeah, and screaming. It's like, oh, they'll be around the corner any minute. And finally somebody come down the road and said, dude, they took you down the wrong road. Hey, or how did it go? You're better at this.
Okay, first of all, we scared like 6 people that weren't even part of the hayride.
I forgot about that.
Just random people coming down the road late at night. Maybe they'd forgotten something at the store. Maybe they were just going home after work, but it was funny. We scared them too.
I forgot about that. Yeah, people started coming down the way, and I don't know what I'm thinking. But so basically, I'll tell you what I had on, and I'll tell you what she had on. I basically kind of went as like a Night of the Living Dead kind of Evil Dead fan who became a zombie. Okay, I had like an Uncle Sam, and it was a skeleton. You know, he was a zombie, and it says, I want your brains and stuff. And I had all the makeup on and stuff. Which, if you go to like Facebook and look under StevieAsher.com, some of that's there. I'll see about putting some up on the www.steveasher.com site. There's a whole lot of different stuff that's getting ready to change up on the site, including some new books I'll tell you about. But anyway, I'll do that in a bit. But so we're sitting there, and where they planted us was, if you'll excuse the term, was at a crossroads, which I thought was pretty apropos for it being Halloween, and the devil's going to come get you and all that mess. So we're down there. Nisi gets on the kind of the other side of the road because she kind of has her shtick and her outfit, and she'll tell you about in a minute. But so I had all this, and I had this fake blood. So I as the night went on, I got more and more blood all over me. And what I would do when people would come down, I would put some on my mouth, and I would kind of spit it where it splattered down my mouth. And then I just got stupid and just poured it in my mouth. And when they would come around the corner, I'd be like, and then blood would be pouring off my tongue, and it looked really pretty cool. But so I got in behind a stop sign, and there was a tree limb that had already about half broke, but it was still connected somewhat to the tree. So I pushed it up with my right hand, put a bunch of hay, which I come to find out was not freshly there. It had probably been there for a couple, 3 weeks. And I put it all over my head and all over my clothes. And so it looked like I was coming out of the ground. So as these kids come down, and this wasn't the kids at first, it was like people. And I would pop the stop sign with my hand and pull the limb down at the same time. So it sounds like the limb's cracking. And then I push through the limb, and I'm, walking around, eyes rolled up on my head, looking all mental. And I was hiding behind a tree, the same tree, waiting for them to come around, behind the limbs. And I'd kind of glimpse around, and I saw these lights, and they stopped, and they were looking, and I'd look, and I'd kind of duck back, and I'd duck back toward them, and then I'd kind of put my hand like I'm grabbing through the tree, and they're just sitting there like, what in the hell? What is this? Now, Nisi again is in her costume, which she'll tell you about in 1 second. Looking like she's hovering around in the dark. It was creepy. People didn't know what was going on, and because Halloween was on a Sunday, everyone celebrated a day or two ahead, so they probably weren't even thinking about Halloween that night. And then I heard Nisi go, "Oh, hi," and then somebody said, "Is there a hayride or something?" I said, yeah, we're part of that. Oh, okay. They were kind of weirded out about it. And then another kid, what was the one guy? It was kind of a younger guy, and he was talking about, he said, "Man, you guys look good," and I was like, "Yeah, well, thank you. We really dig it." And he said, "Go." What did he say? Say, "Scare those kids, man," or something like that.
And apparently we had them screaming.
Oh, that was great. Yeah, had the kids screaming because when they actually did get to come down, it was pretty groovy. Tell them real quick what you had on.
Okay, so I had on black base under my costume. My costume was just the shimmery light cloth, which kind of floated in the air.
Gossamer-ish.
Yes.
Is that a word?
Gossamer. And I had a hat with a light on it. So the light would shine down at the cloth, but because I was wearing black, behind it, it wouldn't show me.
When I saw this in light, I kind of cocked my head, and I'm thinking, what in the hell is this supposed to be? I didn't know she was trying to be a fairy. I had no clue. I said, no. My mask, or the light on my cap, because it was like a ball cap. It had a light in the brim, and it was like, oh, well, to light my face up, kind of. And I'm thinking, okay, so I guess you look like a disembodied head. I don't know what she was going for. But then I saw pictures of it, and I was like, you can't see legs. You can't see arms. All you see is this kind of half lit up, ghostly face, and this creepy, it looked like a ghost. It was like what you would see, like a half apparition of a body of a ghost. And that's what the kids were screaming about. They didn't even saw me.
It was windy.
And it was windy. Oh, the wind was perfect. It was dark. There was just enough moon out to make it where you kind of, everything looked pale and ominous and mysterious and magical. It was really cool. And that's the first time Nisia did stuff like that, I guess, with your daughter, or your daughter had did stuff like that at scare factories and stuff. And I had did that one time at a church, and that was the only time I ever did it, because they said scary, and so I gave them scary, and that was kind of the end of that. But, so, that was the first time I'd done it, and I had a really lot of fun. At first, I was just sort of like, I don't know if I want to, you know. But once we did it, I was like, okay, so what time do we do this next year? And all the kids are really sweet about it. So, anyway, that was what we did for Halloween. I hope you guys had a good, safe Halloween, or Della de Rentis, or whatever was it called?
Dia de los Muertos. Also, you can put some pictures of my costume in the dark online for them to see, so that they would realize what we're talking about with black behind the gossamer cloth. Right on.
Yeah, I'll put that on the Stevie Asher Facebook, and probably the Stevie Asher, let me see, what do I got? Instagram, and I don't know if I think I have a Snapchat. Used to have, well, I don't have Google anymore. Shows you how out of it I am. But that was really fun, and the kids had a blast, and it was really, it was the funnest part of it. You know, the kids got candy and ate pizza and had a lot of fun, and I think the adults doing the scaring had a lot of fun too. There was a ton of people wanting to do it, but yeah, so yeah, we are going into Thanksgiving and thinking about stuff that's more. I mean, I guess everyone has a variation of Thanksgiving. Again, we're doing this from the United States, Kentucky, specifically Western Kentucky, and it's Thanksgiving, families, everybody has some version of it, and you know, regardless of how you feel about this or that, or governments and certain things that had happened in the past, modern day, it's pretty chill, and everybody seems to get along, which is going to be really killer, again, because everybody can actually spend a little time together, because I've lifted some of the COVID stuff. But I'm trying to think. Like, I know that some of the stuff, again, ties in with, like, Native American things. And that's sort of one of the things. It's not so much just Native American, but we're going to be touching on some stuff. Everything about some changelings and Wendigos and some creatures I've never heard of that she's going to turn you on about. But I do want to say two things. The Caldwell County, or not the Caldwell County, sorry. The Curious Counties of Kentucky, Book 1, it seemed to do very well. I appreciate everybody asking about Book 2. Book 2 is basically completed. I'm waiting for the artwork from Matt Mad Celt Jackson, who he does most of my covers. Occasionally I dabble. I'm not a graphic designer by any means, but those should be coming out soon, which I'm also lucky for Nisi, who helps me with all my editing. And but the book 2 will be coming out very soon, and I actually have started up a new one touching on like death lore and folk traditions and creepy, funeral superstitions and stuff, which is kind of ghoulish and sort of my jams. But let's go ahead and jump into this, because we've been talking for a hot minute about different stuff. You told me about, I don't know if it's a creature, I don't know if it's a spirit, I don't know what in the hell it is. What is the name of the thing you're talking about, and will you briefly kind of touch on what it is, what's its point, what's its end game, why and where and how?
Okay, so I come across this thing called not deer. And before we get it too far into anything, anybody that listens to this podcast or watches the show, whatever, I would hope you would comment your experience if you've had one. I really want to know more about these. What I found out was there's this creature out there that kind of looks like a deer. The legs may be backward. It has a different gait. It is not with a herd. Its proportions are out of shape. And the face is different. It's more of a carnivore. Different people, and they're not my stories, so I cannot really share them. I can just kind of touch base on it. Was they find this in the woods and they get scared. They don't ever go back to the same area, which, coming across any kind of carnivore, a bear, you're not going to go back in the woods over there at night at all. Probably never go over there during the daytime alone. So, what are your thoughts about not deer?
Never heard of it. I mean, it makes me think of like I was joking, going, "Oh, you mean like a jackalope?" Which people aren't familiar with the jackalope concept. It's supposedly a rabbit with antlers, which show you how simple I am. I didn't know apparently a cabot is a real thing, but so basically it's some sort of bizarre. I don't know if it's supposed to be an evil spirit. I don't know exactly what it's there for. Is it sort of like the black-eyed kids of the deer world? I don't understand it. Which would make sense. How better to kind of get around and observe about being an unthreatening thing like a deer, which obviously they can hurt you, especially during rutting season and stuff, or run out in front of your car. They can do a lot of damage. But most people don't think about deer as anything other than just, denizens of the woods. But that's freaky, especially if you live in this area. What are some of the encounters people have had with this creature, or that you can remember?
Okay, well, one of them, she was walking through the woods, and she came across this deer where the back legs, from what I understood in the story, were bent wrong. Sorry, that's our dog. So they were bent wrong, and...
Do you mean like bent backwards?
Yeah.
And it wasn't like it was damaged. It wasn't like it was limping. It was walking like it was normal.
It had a different gait. And it came after her. Obviously, she went running. She knew what she saw. Just like, people that see Bigfoot. They know what they saw. You're not going to convince them otherwise because they saw it. Well, she saw it. And she's obviously terrified, will not go back into the woods there on her own, and pretty much takes a buddy system now.
Well, did she see this? Did she have an encounter with it ever again? Or did she have any other strange things that started happening at home? Like, did she feel like something attached to her, or was it strictly whatever it was inhabited?
It was an encounter in the woods for her.
Right, but what I mean is, you've heard of stories where it's like they went through, they saw like a black dog or something like that. Okay, because now they saw the black dog, that means someone in the home is going to die, or they started having poltergeist type activities at their location, or that followed them home. Did she have any other fallout from this?
Well, not on her story, no. However, I just had a thought pop into my head. We also are going to be talking about Wendigo, which is a deer that is a not deer with twisted, not right features.
But
could they be related?
Well, I mean, if this is the not deer a Native American, like, I hate to say myth, but is this something that came from Native American culture, or is this something that's new? Is this like some creepypasta stuff?
Well, considering she was in the woods, was she in some original Native American site in the woods?
I mean, could very well be. I'm just saying, though, but as you know it, did this say, oh, this came from such and such tribe about an encounter and blah, blah, blah?
No, nothing like that. It was something she had seen and had a fright with.
Well, yeah, that in itself, like you said, would be enough to keep you out of the woods. And it just seems like a lot of people, being raised in the woods or around the woods in Western Kentucky, you're familiar with a lot of sounds of animals. You're familiar with a lot of noises of animals. We've had our own weird encounters with, like, the woo kind of sound, which is almost more like a Bigfoot or some sort of thing like that.
It was about 2 nights ago.
About 2 nights ago, actually, at this location that we're fixing to move from, which they can keep their Bigfoot here. But yeah, that was pretty freaky, and we don't have a lot of deers that come right up in this area, which I'm thinking, well, maybe that's why. Because the other place that we're moving to, it's deer 30 over there. There's always deers and animals running around.
It's constant deer 30. There's no time when the deers are not out over there.
Right. So if you're a big fan of nature and things of that stuff, where you love watching the animals run around and frolic in the field and all that, that's going to be a good day for you. And also, if you're some of the folk that like to munch on Bambi, hey, that's a good thing for you too, I guess, if that's your thing. But the thing that's, to me, that differentiates the not deer, because as I understand it, other than the bizarre features are twisted and the wonky kind of legs, doesn't stand on 2 feet, right? It doesn't seem to be. Does it seem to be cannibalistic, or is it just chase you out of the area?
It does seem to be predatory, yes.
Like predatory, like territorial, predatory, like Kevin Spacey, predatory, like it wants to chomp on you.
On the menu.
Like, okay, like you're an hors d'oeuvre or something. Okay. Well, I mean, the thing is, there's a lot more animals that people don't think would eat other little animals that straight up will eat other animals. But coming after humans, that is a bit rare. But the Wendigo is straight up, as I understand, a more of a cautionary tale of like, look, if you're snowed in, don't turn on your fellow people, don't resort to cannibalism, or you will become the Wendigo and murder everybody that you love and everybody that you know, and you'll be a pariah and can never be part of the tribe. But do you remember the thing about the Donner Party?
Vaguely. How their plane had crashed. No.
This
wasn't a plane. It was what?
Oregon Trail stuff.
That's what it was. They had gotten caught in the mountains, and in order to survive, were forced to eat each other.
That's basically what I understand. I thought they were like Mormon. What do you call it? Like California or bus types. What do they call it? Frontiers people and trying to get out there.
Yes.
And then they got froze, and it was more or less they had to survive. And what's crazy is to come through that, unless you're a sociopath, that's going to be a hell on earth to live through that. Maybe you had to eat a friend. Maybe you had to eat family. But you might had to eat one of your children. Could you imagine that?
I cannot imagine it. I do seem to remember vaguely, after all of it had gone down and they had gone back into society, some of them once again had left society because they had too much of a craving for human flesh.
I was going to say that, but also the ones who were able to try to get back into society, no one would have anything to do with them because they broke one of the big taboos. Don't eat other people. There's a handful of things. Don't hurt children. Don't prey on them. And however it is, food wise, sexual wise, whatever. Don't abuse kids. Don't hurt women, and don't eat people. And
don't hurt the disabled.
Right. Well, I mean, it depends on the severity of the disability, right? But especially if it's an intellectual thing, it's like attacking a child. So, but either or, the people that were cursed with that, again, went on till more or less they died. Actually, we'd watched a movie just the other day called Antlers, and that was, I was really surprised how well it was done.
Okay, unlike other people that don't believe in, I guess you could call it the supernatural, I do believe in the Windigo. I think it has something to do with protecting the forest from further damage done by people. And sort of keep it natural. Trying to force boundaries where there are no boundaries. I think it's something that does get passed on, if not from person to person, at least generational. There's different types of myths about the Wendigo itself. If it bites you and you survive, you become a Wendigo. If it scratches you, you survive, you become a Wendigo. I do think you have to have part of your ancestry to be native.
Do you have to have it, you mean like to be...
affected by it.
So it's sort of like, and I'm not making light, so please, no angry emails, but like sickle cell affects African Americans more. So you're saying this is a native centric illness?
I would say so. I think it's along the lines of skinwalkers. We know they exist. There's so much history about skinwalkers. Honestly, I haven't looked it up, but I've heard that skinwalkers have been out there for hundreds and hundreds of years. Probably longer than that. I mean, how long did... what's an odd creature? Narwhals. How long did they
Swimming
exist?
in the ocean.
Before
Especially think of that song
saw
my
them,
kids used to sing.
And they thought they were unicorns.
Yeah, water unicorns. And like, didn't they think that seahorses were mermaids or something, right?
Manatees.
Exactly, that's what I said, manatees. Well, how do you think that ties in with changelings? How'd you like that for a segue?
Oh. Changelings. Okay.
Like that movie.
Supposedly fairy folk. But not the normal fairy folk that everybody thinks. Oh, they're nice people or they're little people and, they like to be out in the woods. Just, ignored, unacknowledged because they like their privacy hidden. Changelings. I don't think all little people are all good, and I think sometimes what we consider evil because it's done against humans, they take the children and pretend to be the child, and then the parents realize it and try to take it back, but it won't be taken back. It won't give back the baby. I think possibly they're what is it? The story of them is that they take the children and that's how they continue to exist.
Like they can't reproduce or something like that?
That's it. And so the children that they take become them.
What does this sound? This sounds very, very familiar to me, and it's due to anyone who's dealt with alien abductions, and taking people in the night, going through walls. Ghosts go through walls. Spirits go through walls. Supposedly, various type of fairy folk are not bound by our concept of tangible physical reality. They live, I guess, in this and beyond, in all different dimensions. So, and think about it. A lot of times they say they kidnap women to harvest eggs, or they get guys and harvest their semen or whatever. It just sounds familiar. And a lot of times, what kind do you see? The little tiny gray ones, little small diminutive type. Why do they not just send them average size? Some people say that they're like like an android or a synthetic creature, and they're more or less kind of a compact worker.
I'm not sure you would say synthetic, because isn't synthetic something man-made to
Well, what I mean is,
replicate?
what I mean is, like think of like a cyborg, which we have cyborgs now. I have family that's cyborgs that have, pumps or implants, or we've all had that Uncle Ted or Aunt Jenny that has the knee replacement. That's man-made material. So what I mean is,
right.
But I mean more or less something that's been altered or amalgamated or for a purpose. Look at breeds of animals. Well, they need a really strong breed for cold, and boom, here comes the Huskies from, variations of Eskimo dogs, right? And then
the Husky is supposed to have wolf DNA in it from the Arctic. It's to do with the undercoat of the fur, so that they can tolerate that cold.
But they're not going to turn around and breed that with a Chihuahua, right? It's
not intentionally. I mean, the dogs, they go crazy.
Well, what I mean though is there's an art to it. There's a science to it. There's a genetic manipulation happening. Just like you always hear about women, and I know I'm kind of going off into the UFO thing, but where women come on ships later after they have eggs harvested, and maybe they're introduced to a little child, okay, that's obviously alien but has human features, or maybe has some of their features. So the child can know the human element of their upbringing, and I guess get some of that nurture and love from the human mother, right?
Right. Who's to say aliens may not be nurturing? They may nurture in a different way.
Well, I mean, I don't want to say nurture is a human trait, but it's one of those things that, try to treat somebody humanely. It's a kind of a human-centric thing. That's like saying no other culture or no other race or whatever would be able to do that. It's strictly a human thing. But, you primarily see like reptilian type races and things like that, and they're portrayed as cold and whatnot. I've heard a lot of alien encounters with reptilians have been that sort of thing, where they don't seem to have a lot of emotions.
Okay, I do understand that. I think there are different types of aliens out there. I know we're going way off left field now.
No, I mean, it's still in the same wellhouse of everything. But I would say that, and how does this tie in? How does this tie into Thanksgiving? How does this tie into Thanksgiving? Let me set my glass down. And this is Western Kentucky, and that was the sound of a mason jar on a marble table. So this is how deep in culture we are here. So there is, in the concept of the American Thanksgiving, two cultures, be it kind of fanciful and not really how everything's happened, but two cultures coming together, supposedly on the best side of it, and having different faiths and different stuff, but there are commonalities. Leprechauns, like you said, the people that would, or whatever, that would kidnap children and this and that, children that would have memories of different things that they shouldn't know about. All this ties in with the esoteric and stuff that's beyond what we would consider as a tangible reality. But for me, I like you're talking about the weird, not deer thing. There's stories where they talk about animals with human faces and different, like the what was the name of that animal? I know it as well as I know my name. Which apparently I don't know my name because I'm blinking. The Montauk. Remember, like the Montauk creature that washed up on the ocean, or washed up on the shore, and it had sort of almost like a bird-like beak. Almost looked like almost like one of those gargoyles you see on the side of buildings.
I do think I know what you're talking about, yes. That's another thing. Like, we call aliens things we don't know about. They might be humanoid. They might be childlike in size. They might be creatures that washed up from the ocean. Because we are faced with something strange, maybe scary, we label them alien. Is it an alien creature? Possibly. Is it more likely to be something far out into the ocean where it did not encounter people before? That's more likely. There's so much in the ocean that we haven't been able to explore that we're gonna continue coming up into new things all the time.
Well, what about like when they talk about the so many different ships, like, and I'm talking about spaceships, or what do you want to call it, are found coming from the ground up from like oceans and things like that. Reports of water bases and whatnot, which makes me think of like, gosh, man, like Jabberjaws and stuff, and Man from Atlantis and all those kind of old school shows when I was a kid. But it would make sense once you get to a certain depth, nothing's going to get down there. Humans aren't going to get down there. Most of the time, we can only travel so many miles, even with the pressurized submersibles, right?
Right. Well, on that note, airplanes. People come up with. I'm sorry, that's our dog. The cat's playing. But people come up with things like the glider. Okay, they came up with that because they watched the bird glide overhead, and they wanted to glide like the bird. However, how do you come from that to something that can carry vehicles, hundreds of people, and powered by engines? I was like, I think a lot of that is intelligence that we're kind of shown.
Well, I mean, if you go back to the holy books, like in India and stuff, where they talk about flying ships that did battle over cities way back. The wheels within wheels in the Bible, and people coming down in ships that belched fire and all this stuff. That sounds like modern rockets. But then again, we understand with our framework of what is. They say a lot of people. I was actually watching a show talking about rocketry and like supposedly what's the name of it? New Schwabenland, where after World War II, a lot, I guess, high-ranking German officials, let's just say it, they were the bad guys, the N-word guys, the Nazi words. I should probably just say it. I don't want them to think I'm saying the other N-word. But right. That's not what we're saying.
I mean, they're both bad words. However, I mean, we're having discussions about history and, things that we come across and all that, and how we came across them, too. So, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I'd been watching some stuff talking about where they had supposedly had the whole Project High Jump, Admiral Byrd War, and they apparently chased them out of there, and supposedly after Russia fell, there was supposedly paperwork found that talked about how apparently there's moon bases and there's Mars bases, and a lot of the Nordic-looking aliens are actually, I guess, the descendants of Nazis. I don't want to sit and say they are Nazis, because I don't know if they had the same ideology any more than you could say anybody who's, I guess, would be considered Caucasian now would support slavery, although their ancestors apparently did. So I don't know what their political leanings are. They may not even, how do I say it? They may have grown past the concept of all that. It might just be, well, look, we're out here doing this, and we're here to learn and sort of advance the human race, as opposed to just a certain color or creed. But a lot of those ships supposedly are under a lot of the ice, where there's air pockets and whatnot. But that kind of did go away from the Changelings things, didn't we? But the one thing...
We did, but the Changelings, are they alien? That's where it tied in.
Well, too, and I will say this about the Nazis. They were all about genetic manipulation and twins and trying to make what they considered a ultimate human. But by that, I wonder how they made the selection of, like, back to fairies and back to all that, before we touch on some more about kind of Wendigo type creatures. Because don't let me forget about ghouls, okay? Did they pick these folks willy-nilly? Did they pick these folks down a certain genetic line? Because I know a lot of times aliens go after, and I'm saying this is from experiencers that I've talked to, go after certain bloodlines, maybe because, I don't know why, but for whatever reason they seem to dig certain people's bloodlines. Do you think that the fairy folk and whatnot, and even the not deer, do they come after certain people? Can they maybe sense a certain bloodline in them?
I think possibly that the people they go after have that, I want to say sixth sense opened up, where they're more in tune to things. Okay, where they, let's say they move in a house out in the woods. They fall in love with the house. They don't realize anything's wrong until a month later. And then they're like, okay, this isn't quite right. And they can't put their finger on it. But they know something's not right. And as soon as they open up to that, I think that's when they get noticed, if you will. Ghosts. Let's talk about that for a second. Are ghosts that much different than changelings as who they attach to?
Well, I mean, can you even say what people call ghosts? Is that a changeling in itself of a person that they knew before, that they're trying to endear themselves to you, to get close enough to you, and for what ends? You know, it's we can only speculate that. Same thing with, like you said, like the non-deer and all that. And I wonder if there's other non-animals, things that you encounter that appear to be what it is, which makes me think of stuff like The Thing, where it had like the dogs that were changed, and you know, it took a minute, but then you realize, no, this ain't right. So, but I was going to say the thing you're talking about, the Windigo and how it's kind of cursed. Different cultures have variations of that, but it doesn't necessarily mean from cannibalism. But another thing that is connected with stuff like ghouls is that they do feast on the dead, and that's super no bueno, and makes it sort of like a curse in itself. Yes, they are sustaining themselves and whatnot, but they are not doing. I don't know. I don't think it's like.
It's not natural. It's not.
But.
Like.
Yes and no, though. But look at it. Look at the cultures that, as part of their rites and remembrancing of the dead, they will consume some of the dead. Like we were talking about, the book I'm working on, the superstitions, rituals, and deathly lore. There's a lot of cultures that have something like that. I mean, and I'm not throwing rocks at anybody, but look at like certain cathedrals. They have parts of saints under the ground there. In the ground, they have body parts of somebody they felt was divine, I guess, to give a certain energy and protection to the facility. But we don't look at that sideways. Most people don't. So, I don't know. Am I being...
Are you saying that we're thinking some things are taboo and we're okay with some things because that's the way they've always been in that culture?
Well, I'm just saying this is what we know. It's like in certain cultures, they don't eat cows. I will jack a steak up in a heartbeat. But in another culture, that would be super not cool. I'm not saying I'd eat an elephant. I mean, because, like elephants are, honored in Thailand and places. Definitely wouldn't do it in that culture. I have no need to eat an elephant. But what I mean is, can I see why what I did would be considered offensive? Of course. But it leaves you to that thing of going, how much of it is cultural, how much of it is universal. There's not too many cultures nowadays, at least physically and literally, to consume somebody. I mean, think about it. What do you do when you go to church on Sunday? What's the first thing you have?
You have the body and the blood of Christ.
Which sounds insane. My brothers, I remember sometimes we would go, and we were in a hurry because we never got up quick because we didn't want to go to church anyway because we were kids. And remember one of my brothers saying, "Hey, to one of the deacons, hey, can I get a little bit extra of that body of Christ? I'm still a little hungry, They didn't get the joke. Really didn't get the joke, man. But it's, when you say it out loud, it's pretty wonky. But again, it's cultural. It is really cultural. But we do have that taboo of that's not a good thing. But what else can you think of in regards of that whole mindset of something that's supposed to be what it is, but it's just not quite it?
Something that's supposed to be, but not quite.
It's like if you look at something, okay, like that old joke where it has like somebody, like, I don't know, pick an actor, like who's
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey. Okay, Amazon Jim Carrey, and then like the Wish version, it's like a real jacked up, wonky looking version of Jim Carrey. It's like, but you look at it and go, nah, I see what you're trying to do, but
it failed.
You're not, fail army, you're not there. What's something that you see like that from, like stories that you've read lately about different encounters and visitations and stuff in be it the ghost world, be it in UFOs, be it in whatever, some of the stuff we were talking about. Just like, okay, well, think about it. Like the little girl from The Ring. That's supposed to be a little girl. That ain't no little girl. She comes walking, skittering across that room. I mean, she didn't even have to walk. She just sat there in the head twitching. I was out. Check. I was done. Check, please. What's something you think that's like, oh, like you see in those movies? That's a little girl. She's walking down the hallway. That ain't no little girl.
Don't be afraid of the dark. They were rat-ish. They were bad fairies. They were going to take that little girl, take her down to their world, and she was going to become one of them.
Was that the movie with Katie Holmes in it and had the little girl? Was that the one that I'm thinking of? It had like creepy looking fairies or brownies or something?
Yes. Yeah. They were gray, skinny, furry, shiny eyes, human faces, human hands on stick arms. It was so creepy, so weird, and like the back was just, they were skin and bones, and you could see every backbone they had. And yet their diet was children's teeth.
I still don't understand how teeth eat teeth. You know what I'm saying? It's like trying to cut wood with wood. I don't understand how teeth just eat teeth.
I don't know. Could you make an axe out of wood that would cut?
Can I make an axe out of teeth that would chop teeth? Could you just make a big row of like shark teeth, make an axe, and you could cut meat with it?
Who would want to try to cut meat with teeth? But
dude,
I guess so, because it's a bone. I mean, some wood would be hard enough to cut a softwood. Yes, you can, but it doesn't seem like the right thing.
All I'm saying, I just want to be that guy to go, well, hey, you're coming to the barbecue, right? Yeah, will you help us, prep some of the meat? Oh, yeah. Here, let me show you. Step back, man. Get that electric knife out of here. I got something better. What do you got? Teeth axe. What? Teeth axe. And start swinging that sucker around.
Sorry, that was funny.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying. That would be what I would say is pretty metal. But I guess we went really off the rails. And we're at the point of talking about axes made of teeth, so...
But, like we said before, if you could please text us your stories, let us know what you've come across out there. We would love to talk to you about it.
Yeah, 8 gazillion%. And because that's the thing is that as we get into the colder parts of the year here in the U.S., it is a thing where this is a great time for stories. This is a great time for, be it scary stories, mysterious stories, and we touch on a lot of stuff. It doesn't all have to be scary. It doesn't all have to be dark. It doesn't all have to be whatever. Um, I like a good miracle story. I love a good positive something that's not all death related. One of the big reasons I wrote like the Kentucky Counties book, and I'm touching off on a little bit more about odd traditions and things like that, and just short stories, is that I can only write about mental asylums and prison and people being murdered and raped and cannibalized on so much. It's just it works on your mind and works on your heart a little bit. Actually, gave me nightmares. I would have nightmares about it just because I've had to research it. And you eat and drink that all day, it kind of gets in your head, and sometimes you just got to do a good purge and get it out. And that's one of the great things I love about Nisi, is that she's open to discussing it, but she usually finds a bright spot in it. She's blushing at the moment, so that's pretty funny. But she does have that counter to my kind of natural dark gothiness. She's the little rainbow in the corner over there. It kind of keeps things level. Anything to say to that?
No, but thank you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, she's all... I don't know if we can get her head through the door later. It's probably swollen up. But yeah, like I said, in the last couple of minutes we got, I do want to remind you guys that with any hope, the second Kentucky Counties book will be out, if not by Christmas, early spring. And hopefully by then I will have put most of the Weird Rituals books and all that together. I am still working on a few full-length novels. I'm not in a rush for it, though. If it happens as it happens, there's 0 point in rushing it. But I was lucky enough to be able to do some decent virtual conferences lately, and that was super fun, and it was super nice. Did you have something to add now?
You should tell them about the story ideas that we've come up with together lately.
Which ones are we talking about? Don't get into too much detail, so I don't want to sell them.
All right. Just bouncing off of each other, we've come up with a few good story ideas. Not going to specify so that they won't be stolen. But, that might be a thing where we start doing things together that way.
Well, I've been telling her for a hot minute that obviously she's, pretty articulate. I mean, she's not walking into the wall. She's a bright lady. And I've said, you need to start writing some stories. Maybe we can start putting something together, and you write a chapter and I write a chapter. Because like I said, there's just something to be said for having both the male and the female perception on stories. I mean, I definitely write from a male-centric avenue on it. And sometimes it's good to kind of go, step back and kind of, now maybe that doesn't come out quite right, or maybe it could be put together in a way that's not as backward. But then again, it is how I write. But I will say, as we get closer into Christmas, I hope that you guys can basically just continue to try to find the light in a dark time, and there's light there, and sometimes you gotta make it yourself, but we're on this together, and we're doing our best to try to hold it together, and I hope that everybody more or less gets through the year, and hopefully they're going to squash this virus, and we can all start slowly getting back to normal and all that. So it's just one of those time will tell type of deals. Is there anything you want to say before we sign off on this?
Just please tell us your stories. We'd love to hear them, and be more well aware of the things that go on out there.
Okay. Well, and no, I don't need a kitty cat up on my lap right now. We have The 3 pups running around and the kitty cat, and they're all setting up here trying to get on the mic. They have lots to say, but they're not able to articulate, so right now we'll wait till they can speak. But they're good kids.
It's also why they're not allowed to answer the phone.
Yes, they're not allowed to answer the phone. Last time they did, she ordered like one of those like $300 bark boxes and all that. Yeah, it's no fun. I don't even know how she got a credit card. They give anybody a credit card. But so anyway, as you can hear the music beginning to fade in, I thank you guys for coming. And as always, stick around. Hopefully, we'll promise this won't be as long between the next one. But as the sun sets behind the pines and the shadows grow long, make sure to look down your hallway, look down your closet, look out your back door. You never know. There might be a non-deer out there waiting for you. So throw some grain. Maybe it doesn't mean any harm. Maybe it'll be your buddy. Who knows? But even if you get a little scared, it's okay. There's knowledge in fear. Always embrace it. And until next time, everybody, stay scared.